and welcome to ADIPEC Energy Dialogues, a series of industry-driven conversation with thought leaders. My name is Gaurav Sharma. Today, we are delighted to be joined by Thomas Gangl, Chief Downstream Operations Officer at OMV. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad and honored to be here again. 1 year has passed and we have quite changed times. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Indeed, and we are in very challenging times. If you rewind the clock back to 2019, yourselves and your industry players, your industry peers, they were striving for 97 to 98% refinery utilization rates. OMV was leading the way. On quite a few parameters, you set the bar very high in 2019. Suddenly, this epidemic happens and it kind of derails the industry, puts the industry on the defensive. So first of all, may I ask, what kind of challenges are you encountering in this current climate?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We had really high levels of utilization. We were very proud of that. And you said leading the industry here. And we expected to continue on that level. Unfortunately, we then saw the crisis developing, also with the oil price. And I mean, normally the low oil price is for downstream a good environment. But in this combination with the coronavirus and the demand, which went down dramatically, it's really a totally different story. And I think we need to prepare, and we will see lower economic growth in the next months and maybe even next year. And the consumption will not come back so quickly. So in this situation, we are very happy to have the integration with the petchem, because this configuration strengthened our position significantly and allowed us to run still on a higher utilization level, which means then at the end of the day, efficiency and a lot of other positive effects. But yes, the crisis and the situation that we face today is a challenge. But in addition to that, I think we need to think beyond the near-term uncertainties. And therefore, we are transforming our business at OMV. And you have probably seen that on March 12th, we signed an agreement to increase our shareholding in Borealis to 75%. That puts us in a very good position for the future, as the petrochemicals are the basis for the modern life. And you see that today, those are not integrated, producing only fuels. For them, it's extremely challenging. In these days, you can see even zero or negative refining margins. And if you don't have the integration, if you don't go further down the value chain, you're in deep troubles. And that's why we are quite happy about our setup.
If you look at more at the near term, in terms of how the landscape is evolving, how have the last, so just rewind the clock not too far back, but how have the last 3 months been since the coronavirus has surfaced?
Yeah, I think we have seen times that no one was able to expect or even imagine. The last 3 months were outstanding. I'm more than 20 years in this business, and I've never seen something like that. But let me say, first of all, a different point here. I think the industry was able to ensure security of supply, and this is the most important topic in such crisis times. And this, the security of supply was and is secured. And I would like to say here, the entire industry did an excellent job, and this should be recognized accordingly. So what have we done? What was for others the challenge? We had to adapt the production in our refineries due to the reduced demand on very short notice. We had to balance different products that we are producing. Jet fuel was down by 95%. Gasoline, diesel was still there, but on different levels. And if you process crude, you then have all the products, and you need to make sure that you are not running out of tank storage. You have to store the different products in the right way. So this was really one of the biggest challenges. And what we have seen is that some refineries were not able to manage that. They had to shut down even the refinery and others just reduced, and we have been able to reduce much less than others due to this configuration that I mentioned earlier. So the massive impact is not over. It's still there, as many producers were still continuing producing more than the demand was there, and this is what we see now on the following, or we will see in the following months. So the impact in our industry is massively. We have at the end of the day two crises that we have to deal with. We have the Corona crisis, which is affecting the demand, and we have the dramatical fall in oil price. And when the oil price is going back upwards, we're challenged with the margins because the prices cannot go up as quick as the crude price is doing that. So that will leave clearly visible marks in our industry. But I'm happy to mention here again that the impact is not the same for everyone.
And I think one theme to emerge, and I'm having interacted with you over the years, one key theme to emerge is to have the most optimized operation, the proliferation of digital in the industry. Now that is well and good, and it's all reasonably well documented. But the question for industry leaders such as yourself is, how do you channelize this? You channelize this digitalization, this process optimization more towards the bottom line, or towards the throughput, or perhaps there is no linear marcation. I mean, are they joined at the hip?
Yeah, so digitalization as such is helping us to keep things running even during the coronavirus pandemic. I think if you look back some 20 years without the technology that we have today, the entire impact would look differently. And beside that, from my point of view, the biggest lever in digitalization is the margin increase. We have improved our refinery performance over the last years via such technologies, and most of the projects delivered their high return due to the change in the yield structure, in the yield output. Of course, I'm looking forward to those times where we need to push the throughputs again beyond the existing limits. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is necessary now, and it's also not very likely for the next month. But in the yield structure, in these days, it has a huge impact, and combining the different units with the tools that we're using is giving us the chance to level out how we produce, where we produce, which volumes. And so this is really key in these times as well. And as I said, I'm looking forward to times where we have to push the throughput beyond the limits, but that's probably not the game for the next months, and maybe also not for first half of next year.
I think speaking more long term, I see yourselves and your colleagues talking about the proliferation of digital, about various techniques. We're talking AI, we're talking advanced data analytics. Some in the industry have had a flavor of what the downstream sector is actually doing with advanced analytics. It begs to ask the question, and I'm not insinuating that the industry is somewhat old-fashioned and is discovering new tricks, but rather have such techniques, especially AI and advanced data analytics, have they become ever more crucial, especially at a time of the coronavirus?
Yeah, I can just confirm that. I think artificial intelligence, advanced data analytics, they are, I would even say, indispensable already, but they are indispensable as also the knowledge of the people and well-trained people. I think within the last month we saw what is possible on short notice with the combination of both man and artificial intelligence, and also of course the advanced data analytics supporting this team of these two groups. We definitely need both, and it's already normal that we have both. Sometimes it's a bit overrated what technology can do, and underrated what people can do, because we sometimes tend to say, well, we have such good technology, we just do it with our technology. But you can't substitute poor educated people with technology and vice versa. Our industry is very competitive, and even more in such difficult times. So to use latest technology is part of the homework for everyone in this business, but we need to make sure that our people are growing in their capabilities at the same speed. And this is a challenge as well, I would say.
I think one of the key themes to emerge at our downstream panel at ADIPEC last year, if you recollect, was how technology is coming into the view of health and safety in terms of training, in terms of reskilling the workforce on site at the refineries, at the midstream and downstream facility. So in this context, given that you've been in the industry for such a long period of time, what are you noticing? What trends are you noticing, and how is it improving things?
Yeah, thank you for that question. At OMV, and you mentioned HSSE, at OMV, the highest priority is given to HSSE. And we are, at OMV, we are using digital tools since many years to improve not just effectiveness and efficiency, but also managing HSSE, improving work processes and ensure sustainability. These topics are becoming more and more key, and it's the license to operate. In addition to our virtual 2D and 3D simulator classroom training, we have also installed simulator training software to the company computers, handhelds, to enable the employees to train autonomously as needed. So the training is performed to ensure optimal preparedness for unplanned and critical events, because if you cannot manage that one, you are out of business. So this technology helps to provide cost-effective training with a high coverage across all sites. And I also think that this topic will be a focus topic in the future as well. We will see exciting developments, and sometimes it's really something where I'm surprised what you can do already with those tools. It's good fun as well. I can tell you, our young engineers, our young trainees, they love to do the training with those tools. They don't want to sit in a classroom, listen 2 hours to someone teaching them. They want to feel what this is about. And this is only possible with those tools. Augmented reality is really creating an extremely positive environment for learning as well.
You know, from one burning topic to another, it leads us nicely to our next question, which is the key subject of the circular economy. It's a burning subject within the sector, and it is bound to come up at the next ADIPEC summit. So what the key question here is the circular economy and what downstream players as well as upstream players are trying to play their role in it. But the key thing here is, you know, how do you balance the debate? If we are looking at waste elimination, we're looking at recycling, it forms part of circular economy, but where do you guys step into that circle that is so well documented?
Yeah, so we are coming from one great topic to the next. Circular economy is really one of our big headline objectives, as you know, and OMV is a front runner in the chemical recycling, and our daughter company Borealis is a front runner in mechanical recycling. And so with this combination, and after the point in time where the transaction is closed, fourth quartile, fourth quartile this year, we have now the chance to really combine the approach of chemical and mechanical recycling, because it's complementary and it's delivering huge synergies. You said absolutely right. This topic is an important one, and we cannot just continue the way we have done things as they were in the past. We know that recycling, circular economy is a must due to the fact that the demand of those products is growing extremely, and we need to find a way to bring that back into the circle. This is on one hand to ensure that we have that we are very careful about the resources that we're using, and on the other hand, that we also solve the problem with potential waste volumes. And with that, I think the combination of chemical and mechanical recycling will not only save the waste issue, it's really a big market that's developing. Customers are asking for products, sustainable products. They are ready to pay a premium, and we are ready to produce this nice quality. It's always good to also have a chance to differentiate from your peers, and with our own technology we can definitely do that. And the combination with Borealis is coming at the perfect point in time.
Let me ask you a generic question, because this problem is not unique to OMV. I think we're living in a climate where there is increasing pressure to touch on the subject of getting the oil and gas sector to lower its carbon footprint. Now, there's the carbon footprint debate, and at the heart of it is our overtures in circular economy, where we are seeing initiatives such as biofuels and synthetic fuels. So part A of the question would be, well, what is your take on this growing pressure to lower the carbon footprint? And part B would be, between biofuels and synthetic fuels, what would you rather back and why?
Yeah, so I think first of all these types of products that are lowering the CO2 footprint have their justification. At the moment, most of them are more expensive than conventional fuels, which makes it more difficult to apply it. Biofuels technology, there are some possibilities which are advanced already, and we are also doing that. We are preparing projects to implement that in our refineries as well. But here you always have for example, the competition between the products, but also the production of food, which is to a certain extent something that we have to take into consideration. We are working on projects for synthetic fuels, also from power, hydrogen combining with CO2. That's the typical one that you would expect when we talk about synthetic fuels. But in addition, we have our unique synthetic fuel, which is coming from our re-oil process, as mentioned before. So that's the post-consumer plastic, the post-industrial plastic, which is then brought back to the refinery and bringing that into a fuel, synthetic crude oil. And having been with re-oil from the beginning, each step, each milestone we make is really making me happy and making me proud, because it's we are getting closer to our goal to have a very resource efficient closed circular economy. We have started operations of the unit in 2018, and since that we have managed to recycle more than 200,000 kilograms, half of that just this year, so in the first month. We are using this unit for testing mainly, but we also, by that, we are producing already this synthetic fuel. And just to give you a flavor, this is the volume that more than 2,500 households produce as plastic waste in an entire year. That's just for testing. We have used that to bring that back. And we are planning to do more. The scale-up process is started already, and we're aiming to build the industrial scale capacity by 2025, with a step in between, which is in preparation right now.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and in order to round it off, I think it's worth asking you the question: what kind of challenges is the petrochemicals complex facing right now? And what should be really, what should be the key takeaways, for the sector for the next decade that's approaching us? Because right now we're in a climate of people are talking about peak demand. People are also talking about the altering of the demand dynamic. jet fuel is under short-term pressure because of the coronavirus. So for players such as yourself, when you look at the petrochemicals complex and the products you crack and then square it against your medium to long-term objectives, how's the next decade sort of shaping out?
Yeah, so let me start with the petrochemicals complex. I see here that there is a growth. There will be again big growth for these products. The reason for that is mainly based on three pillars. On one hand, of course, economic growth means growth in petrochemicals. This is coming from population growth, but also from improving living standards. I think this is very important to understand that there is a global trend that the living standards is increased, and that's absolutely great and it's key. And just to give you a flavor, polyethylene consumption in a developed country is 30 kilograms per person, and it's just 1 kilogram in a developing country. So it's times 30. So when people are in developing countries grow in their living standard, there is a huge demand for petrochemicals, for polyethylene in this case. And there is a second part, and this fits together with the project that we are doing. McKinsey estimated that in 2050, 60% of plastic production will be based on recycled feedstock. So imagine which big volumes need to be recycled. So therefore, the market for sustainable chemicals, the circular economy, the volumes there is very interesting and strong, showing a strong growth potential, and it has started already. So this is why we will adapt our business. We have recognized this opportunity, and we will now combine together with Borealis forces to extend the value chain, and also using this life cycle of plastic products to create more value for the company. And on a more entire downstream view, I would say that the strategic imperatives are, and this will stay more or less constant whether we are in a crisis mode or not. First of all, operational excellence. This is key in tough competition. This includes HSSE performance and financials. The second topic is product portfolio and the integrated value chain, because this is the biggest lever to optimize the margins. Third, I would say, is customer experience, because this is the strong position in the market that you can create or not. Fourth, culture and innovation. This is important to stay ahead of the competition, especially in a market where there's tough competition. And last but not least, the topic we addressed here, the circular economy, the CO2 reduction. This is where differentiation will take place in this industry in the next years. And this will be a very important thing, because it's not just looked at from our industry, the entire society is looking at that very carefully.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Your insight was fascinating. It was an absolute pleasure having you on this broadcast. And we hope to continue these conversations further down the year at ADIPEC. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Thomas Gangl, Chief of Downstream Operations at OMV. We hope to bring you future energy dialogues over the coming weeks and months in the lead up to ADIPEC 2020. Thank you for listening and watching.